Who are joining us. I'm David Solnit, and this is the Arts Organizing to Win webinar. We're sharing some pictures from some of the We Can't Wait art builds and actions. And if folks are able to, if you go down to the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and you can share your name and where you're from, if you're teacher, educator, staff, uh, what your union or organization is, and also what your favorite creative practice is. Could be any form of art, music, craft, uh, gardening, cooking. And we'll just gather folks and then get started in a few minutes. Welcome, Stephanie. San Diego in the house. For folks joining us, welcome. A few new folks have joined. You're in the right place for the Arts Organizing to Win webinar with the We Can't Wait campaign. David Solnit going to be introducing an amazing panel, and just as we gather a few more folks, and if folks would be willing to go down to the bottom of their screen and click on Q&A and just let us know who you are, where you're from, if you're part of a union or organization, and what your favorite creative practice is: arts, music, crafts. Welcome, Amy. Welcome, Molly, Sarah Kennedy, Sean. Anyone else who joined us, go to the Q&A at the bottom and let us know where you're from and a creative practice. And I think we're about ready to get started. I was going to ask our wonderful first thank Jessica Beard for organizing and doing our tech backup. Is there anything that folks need to know, Jessica?
I don't think so. Just put any comments or questions in the Q&A, and we'll make sure that they get answered either in the moment or afterwards. We'll also do a quick Q&A at the end.
Great. So just say a little bit and then get right into our panel. And this is going to be recorded, so we'll share that out afterwards. But my name is David Solnit. I'm an arts organizer. I've worked with a lot of movements, experimenting with how we can use art and culture to help win campaigns. And I've had the honor to work with teachers unions over the last few years, and was asked by Oakland Education Association to help out with the We Can't Wait kickoff. And through that, got involved in trying to support arts organizing around the We Can't Wait campaign. and I'm very humbled and honored to get to support brilliant educators organizing. I reflect back on the first Trump administration when it was the Red for Ed and the educators that were the folks who most effectively stood up to that administration. So I'm looking forward to that happening again. And through my last 3 decades of experience working in social movements using art and culture, I'm convinced that is one of the ingredients to winning. And we'll get to hear people's experiences, lessons, and strategic thinking about how they've made that happen in their unions and their communities. So we're gonna hear from 7 of us for about an hour, and then we'll have some time for questions. And we'll also have a resource page. It'll be at the same location that you got here, bit.ly/art to win. We'll also send it out. So all the resources people talk about, we'll list there. So don't stress if you don't write something down. And we're going to start with Sarah Dar from the San Diego Education Association. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Let me get my screen sharing one moment. Okay, can everyone see that? All right, fantastic. My name is Sarah Dar. I am a speech language pathologist. I'm the secretary of the San Diego Education Association, and this is my second year on release as the We Can't Wait campaign organizer. I'm really honored to be co-presenting with so many amazing artists and activists on this panel. I was asked to share about our experience at SDEA doing our first ever large-scale art build last year. So this was the inspiration for our art build. Like David mentioned, back in February, all of the We Can't Wait locals did a kickoff action to publicly launch our campaign. And the Bay Area locals joined forces to do their action. And this picture shows the amazing art they displayed to get our campaign message out. I was really blown away when I saw this picture. I had never seen art like this, and I couldn't imagine how they'd pulled it off. I reached out to the campaign organizers in the Bay Area locals to ask how they had accomplished this. And they put me in touch with David, who along with Julie has been supporting them with art builds for years. And as luck would have it, David was going to be in Southern California the following week. So with about a week and a half's notice, we planned SDEA's first large-scale art build. So we had a day for our art build. We released 6 members of our organizing committee. And we also invited a number of allies from community organizations and our labor council to take part. We had an incredible day of building art and solidarity together and gaining new skills that could support us with future campaign actions. So here's a little bit about the process for those of you who might be embarking on this adventure for the first time this year. David started in the morning by telling the team about our plan for the day, including painting large fabric banners and screen printing both fabric and poster board signs. So the second 2 pictures, you can see a technique that David taught us for projecting his designs onto the large banners on the wall so that we could trace them onto the fabric. And then we painted in the lettering and designs. I was amazed that this is a technique that anyone could learn regardless of artistic talent, but which came from David graciously sharing those skills that he's culled over his many years of experience supporting art builds. David also taught us how to screen print designs with our We Can't Wait messaging. We produced enough so that every one of our schools could have one fabric sign and one poster board sign for our pickets that were coming up in a couple months after this. And we produced both Spanish and English versions for our bilingual school communities. And finally, David taught us how to mount the fabric signs and how the larger banners can be disassembled and reassembled to allow for easier transport to different actions. We held a second art build a few months later with about 35 members, and we had a blast. We had markers and paint so that members could create their own signs, like you can see on the left. And we also had an additional horizontal fabric banner that David had traced out for us. You can see on the right 2 pictures that both members and their kids pitched in to help paint it. And this art build gave us the opportunity to apply the skills and techniques that David had previously taught us. So in April and May, we held pickets at 125 sites and programs. The signs that we had given to every site really got everyone fired up about this action. You can see that in the top 3 pictures. So they have those fabric and poster board signs, rounded out with some of the printed signs that CTA created with the campaign demands. And then the bottom 2 pictures show the larger banners. We took those out to a different focus school every day where we knew they had really active unions at their sites, and we knew the picket would have a large turnout. So this was a really effective way to get out our campaign message. The signs were so bold and eye-catching that we got a lot of attention and cars honking at the pickets that were on busy streets. Overall, doing an art build is an incredible way to get members energized and foster solidarity. We saw members turning out that we did not normally see at actions, coming to the art build, getting involved. It really supports our campaign messaging and can garner a lot of attention. Plus, it elevates all the pictures taken at our actions, like the beautiful ones that you see here. We at SDEA are very excited to do our next art build with David and his team in January. And I'm thrilled that so many other We Can't Wait locals will have the same opportunity this year. And I will pass it on to Julie. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Sarah. Introduce my partner, Julie Searle from Berkeley Federation of Teachers.
Hi, everybody. So I am indeed from the Berkeley Federation of Teachers, and I had the pleasure, honor of being an organizer and a classroom teacher with BFT for years. We did what I tried to show in this slideshow is really a start to finish, although the struggle never ends. But how we brainstormed from the beginning and what different phases of our campaign, which was incredibly successful, how that worked. So let's see. I don't know if this is on an automatic timing, but next slide.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the first thing, my step one is really this was a very deep and powerful thing that my union did, a group of us who are organizing. And the We Can't Wait process, which I was partly involved with statewide, Pablo, Bethany, different people who are deep in California, that we've been talking about the priorities and our commonalities for quite a while to come to the We Can't Wait messages and ideas. But in my union, we used a worksheet that you'll see on the next slide called Battle of the Story. And it was really a deep way of looking at the story that we were going to be shaping our campaign around. For instance, who are the villains and heroes? How does the story show us the future? What do you have to believe to accept the story is true? Who's the conflict between? And I don't know if anyone's ever used this kind of a structure, but we found it really amazing. Next slide. So this was the structure that we used, and we had it on a great big piece of chart paper and just went at it. And the union president at the time in Berkeley, she took this giant piece of very messy chart paper that we had done this on, and she had it on her door, her office door, for the next few years, kind of like this was the work in the trenches of how we mapped this out as human beings, of what our story was going to be. And I can talk to you more about that later. Next slide. Okay, so the way I'm doing this is for each thing why it worked. So why it worked: using the Battle of the Story gave us clear, meaningful, effective frame for all of our campaign images and talking points. And the main one that we came up with was, we love our jobs, but we can't afford them. And so that was a lot of what, we talked about keeping teachers in Berkeley and things like that, but this was the essence that we were pitching to our community. Next slide. Okay, so step 1+. based on the story you're telling, or we were telling. So we, in this case, it was David and me, created a simple design, and we did a bunch of prep. Kind of, Sarah, as you were talking about, that David brought us this and this. So we did that framed around the love our jobs but can't afford them. And we had used the sunflower as a Berkeley thing for quite a while. So that was a bunch of prep that had to be done ahead before we did. You get a sneak peek of the art build here. Next slide. And why it worked, because we needed a really clear image, and we also needed to have the art really tightly prepared. And all of y'all who have done art builds, you want the whole spread out for everybody to jump in when they come in and have a super satisfying experience. Next one. So have a campaign kickoff and training day. That's what we did, and we invited all the union members, and we had an art build. In our case, that was an option. Some people were doing a more other kinds of planning. So everybody who came to the art build was like, I want to get my hands up in it. And we did have screen printing and hanging everything on the clothesline, and hand coloring cloth patches. So again, you'll see in the pictures lots of different mini hands kind of activities. Next slide. Why it worked. Everybody had a hand in launching our campaign. And, I know every district is different, but ours, we have all kinds of fabulous teachers, and there's a whole array of people who are sometimes really cranky about things, sometimes really enthusiastic, an array of who's in the mix. And having everyone make things together was stunningly uplifting and fresh and fun. And so that's and we also disseminated things so that we were starting to get the word out, through this art. Next slide. So the step 3, this was so the first phase, as you can see, was more about the teachers themselves. The next idea was, okay, how are we going to mobilize our community, both teachers, but also parents and allies in the community? And of course, if we're working statewide, we want, we want the buzz to be how wonderful this all is. So we made things that were then, not just going to be in a classroom window or something, but things that would be rigged on sticks and have visibility in a crowd. Next slide. So this is, Sarah and most of the rest of you're very familiar with, having things that kind of rise above the cloud, rise above the clouds and the crowd, and make people, feel like they're part of something wonderful. Next slide, please. Why it worked. The visual impact of the crowd, whether a few people or a jam-packed room, was always increased by dynamic art at the entrance and in board chambers. So this was mostly focused on our school board. But, that was another thing is sort of you feel the expansiveness of your numbers and the power of your message, whether you're packing a space or whether it's going to be just a few people at a single school. Okay, next slide, please. So create banners for individual school sites. This was something that we just tried, and it ended up being wildly popular. It was a funny thing. Just every site had their own banner, and then teachers would paint in their name. And so whenever we were doing something that was really site-based, instead of the school having just, the things that we were using district-wide, they had their own. So next slide, please. Why this worked. Simple act of gathering behind a banner and taking a great photo to post publicly, it helped unify the sites. And you can see in this case, we were also in unity and solidarity with Oakland teachers at that time. So, all the divisiveness melts away and everybody's feeling really fabulous. Next slide, please. Step 5. Okay, so this was escalation. Making bigger, bolder art, bring out everything and everyone into the street. So even more, not the school board, not the individual schools, but actually in the street. And we added a brass band that happened to be populated by our music teachers. That was super dynamic. Next slide, please. Why it worked? Because the contract expired and we needed even more energy. We wanted to show that we meant business and we were even more an energized mighty force. Next slide. So, step 6, right before a make or break negotiating session, add another dynamic surprise element. Paint a street mural right in front of the school board chambers, which is in our case, and arrange for a professional to take great photos, which was really critical for this particular thing because the angles were so unusual. Next slide, please. So here we are painting the mural. And again, this was, prepped out. This is a giant, you can see the giant 3D pencil that we hung right over the gateway into the school board chambers, kind of claiming it as we're here and we're not going away. So we had a big 3D item, and then we had the mural happening right there in real time while we were painting. The superintendent of schools walked right by us and saw what we were doing, and we sort of greeted him and kept painting. And you can see in the corner it says Brooke Anderson Photography, and I think that Brooke has been engaged to do photography for the We Can't Wait campaign. Next slide, please. Why it worked? Well, novelty, thrill, live painting, and it showed the superintendent and school board that we were unstoppable. There was something about the physicality of painting right on the street. In that case, we did not actually block the street because we had a kind of a plaza right where the school board meets. But even so, we were, right up there taking the space. Next slide, please. And this was the final glory gathered together with this great photograph that the union is still using today. And we won a really great contract with this campaign, and we are still using some of the dynamic imagery from it. And so a glorious story. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Julie. I'm going to insert a quick comment and then introduce Pablo, which is just to note that guiding this work in the We Can't Wait campaign, there's a We Can't Wait art committee of which Pablo, Sarah, and Jessica, or a bunch of other folks are on. Jessica Beard and Muni Citron have been helping to guide the work through the CTA statewide. And then we're going to hear a little bit later from the Art Build workers, Jeanette and Paul, who work with the team and work nationally with Nate Gunderson, and they've been guiding this work around the country and learning and teaching. So we'll hear from all of them. But right now we're going to hear from Pablo Serrano from United Teachers of Los Angeles. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you, David. Let me turn this on here. All right. So my name is Pablo Serrano. I am a staff member at United Teachers Los Angeles. I am focused on storytelling at the union. I search out stories that are happening every day in the classroom, at school sites. And we also focus those stories in a variety of ways, right? And for us, the art aspect of it comes in to be able to tell that story through a whole different lens. We use artists from the community at really any and every point that we can. I've been at UTLA now for the last 8 years. And since I've been working there, there's really been an open door to be able to propose ideas of working more with community artists, along with artists within the membership as well. We really look as art being this essential method of communicating with it could be from a whole a whole niche of people that really learn better through art, grasp ideas better through art. But also in general, art for us is a marker, a historic marker that really pulls up an emotional feeling within members. The posters, which were a large variety, posters and banners that were made in our 2019 strike, till today can be seen hung in classrooms at school sites. So we've really noticed that using art in all of our rallies, all of our instances, really helps people unite behind ideas that are sometimes on written paper are, could be 10 pages deep, but art has a way of communicating in an easy way to a whole other populace. We also like creating art, building moments where members are building art at our leadership conferences, for example, or as we get closer to striking or building up, escalating our campaigns, our contract campaigns. We definitely bring art more and more, whether it's art to make at a rally or art to make at a conference. This is nothing that I don't know how I can. There it goes. Okay, this is nothing that we take. I come from the human rights and labor world in Latin America, where arts was used daily in communication methods. And here in LA, the history is that as well. Art has always been used as a marker, as a storytelling method, and we definitely take that as something that we find important in how we build a communication strategy in the union. Not too long ago, we had the We Can't Wait rally on May 17th in front of Musk's factory. We really focused strongly on art. We were intentional on having members be involved in making the art so that there is a historical moment where they came together with colleagues to make art that they would use in resistance, not just that day, but ongoing. And in rallies after that, throughout the summer, all the rallies that we've seen here in LA, we saw a lot of the art that was made at this rally really see life throughout that summer and in the classroom as well. It was intentional, as I mentioned. It was a lot of organizing and understanding what were the main kind of art pieces we wanted members to interact with, to really use as a place of starting to think about things differently, seeing themselves shoulder to shoulder with their colleagues. So the intentionality behind it really drove the strategy and finally the tactics that were used at this rally. But going back a little bit further, our 2019 strike really shaped a lot of how we did art or interacted with art for the next years after that till today, till May, till that We Can't Wait rally. In 2019, the buildup towards the strike that came in early January, we really art came in so many ways. It just poured in, and really online was a big platform where we saw it, where we saw members who were in the film industry as well making videos, from a communication stance, it was really understanding that your lenses to try to find that kind of content from membership and from the community as well. There was songs written once by a 8-year-old girl who wrote a song with her parents and sang it. This kind of art, can be seen through history, whether it's theater, whether it's poetry, spoken word, or visual graphics, like we built with the help of a large community that came nationally, but also statewide. Many people from the Bay came down and from other unions came to LA to help us build on our art build. Our art build of 2019 was massive and a beautiful 3-day affair where prior to the date, lots of organizing was done, not only to get people there, but also to get content from members that was used in the art making itself. So the process was amazing, but really it's to stepping back a little bit towards the idea that there are these niches of artists in all kinds of places. And in 2019, we began to work with a couple main organizers of what became here in LA the Red for Ed band. And they are LAUSD music teachers who will text each other music sheets prior to rallies or even our conference and come out and play music. They're very versatile in the sense how we can split them up, and some of them will be at some part of the rally, some at the others. But really, it's a back and forth that we have open with them. As well with some of those artists that I mentioned earlier, the video and film folks that made I forget, it was an Austin Butner series, Truthful Butner or something of the sort. But the internet really at that time became a place where all the art from our members, comedians who are influencers per se within the education world, who are our members, really finding them and pulling them in and making that connection with them became a absolutely powerful moment in resharing art and then working together with those same artists to make art. Our art build that came just a little bit less than a month before our strike, was massive, like I mentioned. We worked with a local organization by the name of Spark, led by Judy Baca, who you see there in this picture. And she is the director behind the mural that you see here at the beginning of the Great Wall of Los Angeles. That is really, once again, storytelling. So we united with other people in the city that were part of that storytelling legacy through art. And artists came from all over the place. Amazing artwork was made that was used in our marches, in our strike, on our picket lines, and later has continued to hang in the classroom as this memory that was made together. And there's a lot of new members now, 6 years later, but they also lived in Los Angeles, where art helped build and make the lens of the narrative that we controlled as the educators of Los Angeles. And art was a huge aspect of storytelling that to students, to community members, and to members and surrounding unions as well. This is some of the other art that was made into banners that was projected as the sister from San Diego was showing the same process here in LA back in that 2018 December art build. We made a lot of art that was beautiful. Today we continue to pull art as part of the central strategy of the union through organizing members, through contracting with local artists, and through having art builds where the community comes together with members to build art. And that's about it for me here.
Thank you so much, Pablo. Amazing. Gonna pass it to Bethany Meyer from the Oakland Education Association.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bethany. I'm a special education teacher in Oakland. I'm a past secretary and communications director of OEA, and I was part of organizing the first art build. It was our current president, Kapala Taze Rancifer, who first brought the idea of an art build to Oakland. And a lot of questions came up, like, why? And what? And isn't that a lot of work? And what? Yeah, I mean, really, people were telling her no, that is not a thing we can do. This is not possible. What is the point of this? Once people do it, they understand why. And they understand that not only is it possible, it's beautiful. The art build helped us to build our union and to help us build the power that we needed to win. So next slide, please. Thank you. What is an art build? That was something that we really had to explain to people to get them ready to do it. It's something that brings educators, family, community, and artists all together to create the art, to co-create the message, and really work together on the slogans and the words that educate the public. Public schools are not for sale. There's been a lot of variations on that over the years. Fight for the schools Oakland students deserve. These are words that our members know, that the community knows and understand, and you know that it's working when you hear people say it. You know that it's working when you hear people say it who were not at the meeting. So next slide, please. Thank you. Important to remember that it's an organizing strategy, and bake that in from the jump. Make sure that you have a sign in. We kept track by site, how many people came, who was there from each site. We kept contact information, and we use that for tracking like how it's going in terms of building power. You measure participation, you're gauging your overall strike readiness, evaluating your structures that you built to see if they're working and where more support is needed. And it's an important part of like your overall escalation plan, where you starting with like those very kind of low stakes things, like did you wear your t-shirt on Wednesday? And we were literally tracking that. What percentage of people wore their shirt? Send that data in, and we kept track of who was at the art build, and it's like moving people closer and closer to more visible and meaningful action. Next slide, please. It's an extremely unifying experience. Look at how beautiful that is. When people participate in something like that, they're going to post that picture on their social media. They're going to say, I did that. I painted that. That's me. I was there. And it's such a feeling of pride and unity that you can't, it's almost hard to explain. The first time you people get there, they're so nervous to dip their brush in the paint and put like, can I really do this? And it's like, yes, you're doing it right now. We're doing this together right now. And people honestly make friends there. You will, when you're standing there with people from like, we have 86 schools across our district, and I know districts like LA are even larger, and all these places, you will make friends that, and people who wouldn't ordinarily come out, like your art teachers. My God, when they come out, it's such a beautiful thing. People bring their kids with them. It's fantastic. So it feels more accessible to people who are like, oh, I'm not a yeller. I'm not a troublemaker. It's like, well, you were an artist. Come on out. Next slide, please. Um, oh yeah, I think that was actually what I was talking. Next slide, please. Come off of my slides. So our art build was hella Oakland. I mean, it was Oakland through and through. If it's Oakland art build, you're gonna see a lot of fists up, right? We had DJs, we had tacos, we had lumpia, we had a student jazz band that was actually really good. They were better than some of the adult bands that come out. And I love our strike band. Our music teachers are fantastic. But make your art build special to where you are. Bring your like local culture and your own flavor. When people start expressing that, it's a beautiful thing and it really ties your art to what's happening in your community. So next slide, please. Thank you. It's a visual representation of our issues. It makes your message and your power visible. Making your power visible is no joke. So after the art build, our members could speak to the issues. They were saying things like fight for the schools Oakland students deserve, keep teachers in Oakland. This is Oakland, keep schools open, and that public schools are the heart of our community. And like people say, like these signs here, these public schools are the heart of our community. When I was on release and I'd go into classrooms, these were supposed to come back to the union office, but they didn't. These are hanging up in classrooms all over town, and people are very proud of them. When people saw these, the community could see and understand what we were fighting for. And that's so important. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. It's an important communication tool. I love this picture because you can see all the teachers and community members together creating the art. This picture itself communicates a lot because when the district heard and saw on the news that we were doing this, we heard through back channels that they understood, oh, this is different. Oh, this is different now. Like they saw us literally like racking up those signs and saw that it was no joke. So these pictures got shared out through social media, either the professional ones that were taking one, the ones on OEA's media platforms, people, their own pictures. This stuff starts to get around and generate excitement. People want to be there. And when you write a media advisory that says, person will stand in front of microphone, blah, blah, blah. The news isn't going to show up for that. They will show up for this because the media wants to show like a visually exciting story. this is something exciting that the media will turn up for. So put out a press release for it. Let them know that it's happening. Because they like a story that's visual and that has action. So they don't always cover us favorably, right? If you get to know like your local media folks there, like you get to know which ones you like, which ones you don't like. Who doesn't want to tell a story? Teachers create beautiful art for children. They will come out for that. So next slide, please. Getting the message out and having fun is, I love that picture. My God. That was hanging up right by Lake Merritt. We kind of put them on notice. I mean, that's a couple blocks from the school board is. So when the news turns up, individual teachers get the message out and they're going to be on camera, right? They're going to be speaking with sincerity, urgency. They're going to tell their personal stories and they're going to stay on message. Like, this is a very helpful thing to have teachers staying on message. And they'll be telling their own stories, that your new teachers about, like, I can't afford to stay in this job. Or your veteran teachers saying, like, just the fact that we grind through new teachers every year, that your kid deserves an experienced teacher and we can't get them and keep them without better pay and working conditions. This kind of sympathetic story in the news that shows real people telling their stories will put pressure on the employer and they will start to feel that pressure. And that's what we want. People will understand that these are teachers fighting for the kids. And the skills that you learn at these art builds, they absolutely carry on. Like there was an art build. We were asked to do an Educator Day of Action for the Black Organizing Project George Floyd resolution. And I was on like a logistics committee for that. I didn't run the art build. I didn't plan the art build. Teachers just like took the skills and made beautiful art and did it. And you know it's working when you see that happen. When the knowledge and expertise in it isn't just held in the hands of a few people, but people are making it part of how they move and the things that they do. So I guess the last thing I want to say about it is that it's a tool for organizing, for building union power, for messaging, for your contract escalation, and it's also an expression of joy, unity, and pride. So thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much, Bethany. Amazing. Uh, Very excited to have Jeanette Ariano and Paul Keelan from Art Build Workers, and they're going to be coming out to California and helping us on some of the art builds, backing up the locals. So take it away. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me into this, David, and for inviting Art Build Workers out to California over the next handful of art builds. Um, I'm Paul Keeland. I am based out of Wisconsin with the Art Build Workers. Jeanette is also in the group. I will let her introduce herself in a little bit. But I am a screen printer, printmaker, and organizer. I'm also in an organization, Just Seeds, a group of radical artists from all over North America that does work with social movements. Um, the rest of the group, Art Build Workers, is Joe Brusky, who is on this call right now, actually, and who shot this incredible video that you're watching right now. Um, and he is a released Milwaukee school teacher with the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association, and he does social media, photography, communications with them. Um, Nicholas Lampert, Kim Kozier, and Josie Osborne are all professors at UW Milwaukee. And so together we travel around the country, mostly working with the National Education Association to go to cities when there is a contract dispute or a strike brewing. We also have done a lot of work with organizations like SEIU Fight for 15 and too many smaller organizations to count. Um, We were at the LA teacher strike, UTLA. We were in Oakland. We were in Portland, Seattle, Chicago, Santa Fe, Minneapolis, St. Paul. We've been doing this for quite a number of years now. Um, and so what I wanted to do was a show this video because it kind of shows the scale of builds, and kind of gives a sense of what's going on during the build. But I also wanted to talk little bit more about working with artists and kind of the interface that happens between artists and movements, organizations, unions. There's a couple things to consider when you're working with artists. Um, One of them is that I think the earlier you can get artists into the mix, the better. A lot of times, organizations will develop a campaign and bring artists at the very end to add visuals to it. I think the earlier you can make those connections, the better, because not only will the artist be a little bit more invested in the campaign in general, but in a lot of ways, artists can influence the campaign. What just like Julie was talking about with really having this process where there's communication that's going on back and forth between the artists and the organization. There's kind of a push and pull. You think you have a really great slogan, and then the artist is like, well, how am I going to fit that into a design? And then you go back to the drawing board and you make it shorter, and you kind of work back and forth together to come up with something that neither of you would be able to come up with individually. Another thing is that it's critical that people can read and identify the graphics. I think that's a pretty common mistake as you're designing for movements, is getting too complicated, getting too muddy. A lot of times this work, while it's important during the action and in the streets, where it really lives on is through the documentation of it. Like you're seeing here in this video, on social media, in photographs, and places like that. So designing in a way where you can read it from a block away, where it's super bold. The designs can be complicated, but they need to be super readable. Um, so you know, and as you're going through that process, really focusing on, the brevity of the messaging, the clarity of the demands, you know, not trying to say too much all at once. Um, Another thing that was touched on earlier tonight was the local flavor of art organizing, and that's incredibly crucial when we're working on organizing art builds around the country. That's one of the main things that we focus on is who are the artists in the area? What are what are the icons of the area? What makes it look like this can only be happening here? And really trying to tease that out and draw that out in the work that we're doing, because the more you can connect it to place, the more people are going to feel like they have a stake in what it is. Not just the union itself, but the community. If the community sees it, you see a photo of it, you're like, this is from here. Um, I'm gonna toss it over to Jeanette to talk for a little bit, and then maybe we can bounce back and forth a little bit too. Jeanette, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Jeanette Arellano. I'm a art teacher, K through 8, and a cultural organizer, local artist, and community activist. I'm so grateful for being here today, and I'm grateful for being a part of the Art Build Workers. Uh, One of the things that just keeps on standing out is stories, right? Stories keep on popping out. And how do we tell those stories? Then creating community and creating art builds. There have been so many times where people have been walking past an art build and they have no idea what's going on, but they'll ask the question, like, what is this? I remember one of the organizations that we frequently also create builds with, which is Voces de la Frontera. It's a local labor and immigration rights organization where not only does it have a community, but it might have folks that have never held a paintbrush, that have been working like 2, 3 jobs and have never had time to have a place of community to be with their families and children. And so the reason I say that is because I remember in one of these art builds, there was a mom with 3 kids, and she was walking by, and the kids were really interested, and they were dragging their mom. They're like, "Mom, mom, mom," And the mom was like, "No, we don't have time," and they just kept pulling her, and so finally she was like, "How much is it?" And that's the thing. It's like with art belts, it's free, right? It's free and it's open. And when we were able to tell her, well, it's free, she was like, she took a double stance as far as like, are you for real? And many times we expect like quality work to be cost something, right? To have to pay to have something of quality for our communities. The mom came and she brought her children, and they stayed for a bit, and they said, well, we're only going to stay for 15 minutes. 15 minutes turned into an hour, turned into 3 hours, turned into the full 3 days. So this mother that just came walking by came with her kids, and at the end they were able to complete their parachute, and even the little girls were like, we did it. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of it. It's like we might have our local artists who are creating these graphics, but it's really the people that are coming for the cause, and they see it as their artwork. And then these little girls who came to the parachute, they wanted to go and continue into the march. So they continued, and they came with their mom. They were the first ones in the morning. And they came with their banner and they took pictures and they put it on their, social medias. And that's what really pops out. What pops out is the fact that people cared enough to stay, people cared enough to share their stories, and we were able to have that story to continue on. There's so many stories that can be brought out from community members themselves. And you never know, maybe at the end of that community build, they might want to speak on behalf of the whole cause in itself. Maybe it might not be as thorough as each one of us has experienced with our unions, but they're coming because they care and they have kids inside of our schools. On that post, like I would definitely suggest to have a youth banner, something for youth, for young people to create on their own. It doesn't have to be projected. It doesn't have to be traced. Maybe it could be a big word, but let them create it themselves. Because then they can also go into the march and they can create and they can stand not nice and proud. Well, not nice because we don't want nice. We want rad. Coming back to our images, like we have so many images of Cesar Chavez walking into these actions, right? We see those posters, but having the people from the actual cause, just like you see right there in the parachute, having a youth like standing up. These are the images of our heroes. Our heroes are the people, are us, are the everyday person. And so when a little girl goes and sees her picture that it's in a big ass parachute, like it means the whole world to her. And it shows that heroes come in all ages, come in all sizes. Heroes are us. We don't have to put a person up on a pedestal. It's the struggles of everyday human beings. And it's the power of that story that then tags along to social media. So it's so important to have social media. And if there's people taking like pictures or videos of their own, make sure to have a hashtag. Say, hey, can you hashtag that? As far as like, Oakland teachers or standing strong together, something that connects it back to the reason why we're all here. Like it's such a beautiful thing. I'm trying to like not tell you too many stories because I could go on, and also like coming back to the power of language. I feel like there was a couple of people that said it. It's not just using English to say a cause, saying it in English and Burmese and Spanish and whatever the language is of that community. Because not only is do people on the news see English every day, but when they see something that's in Spanish, it stands out. Or if that community is mostly Burmese, it'll stand out. Having it open to different types of languages. And if there's not somebody that's able to translate it, I know like reaching out to our community organizations will definitely get that connection together. Like it's creates that quality of art because when we go to an action, we usually see cardboards or anything that people have picked up from the ground to create. So there's an urge and there's a need to create, right? So why don't we give this urge and need to create with quality? You have artwork that people can take away. If you have a patch in every art build, guess what? You're gonna have followers. You're gonna have like folks coming to those art builds just to collect that patch. Because we've seen so many times where people are like, "Hey, when's your next art build? I'm creating a quilt, you know. I'm creating a jacket. I want another patch on my shirt." So those then tag along, and so people still continue to fight for the cause of the things that they wear. It's it creates your own type of like I don't know, like subculture, right? Like people start coming just for the builds. People start coming to share community, and there's a lot of folks that after the pandemic just really struggled to find where that community was. So why not find it with education? Find it with our educators, find it with our families. And having those images to be a part of that cause makes it even stronger. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette. I just wanted to shout out again real quick Joe Brusky, who shot all of this video and edited it for us. Art build worker from Milwaukee. So thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, Paul, and Joe. And I get to share a few pictures and comments, but invitation right now for anyone listening to post a question or a comment in our Q&A, and then in a few minutes we'll read through them. And Jessica, if you'd be willing to pop up those slides. And started organizing in high school and wanted to be an artist, but didn't see how it would fit into organizing. So organized for a decade and then started to recruit artists and figure that out. That led to forming, we had a network of arts and street theater collectives called Art and Revolution up and down the West Coast and around the country. And worked a lot in labor, sweatshop, and environmental movements, and put everything we learned together around the when the World Trade Organization came to North America, very inspired by the Zapatistas, who were creatively rebelling in Mexico. Next slide. And so when the World Trade Organization came to Seattle, we worked with local and regional organizers and took everything we learned about using art to try and build a mass mobilization. Our art collectives were part of the Direct Action Network, which was the mass disobedience and direct action wing of a mass mobilization. The labor movement turned 40,000 people out. We had about 5 to 10,000 people who were committed to shutting it down. But the way we built participation and also talked about the obscure issue of what is the World Trade Organization, which if you start talking about it can sound like a college economics lectures. We used theater, art, music, and you can see in the picture on the left side, we traveled around with a street theater that we'd perform in communities, then followed up with a civil disobedience and an arts training. And as part of our theater, we had 2 folks who were impacted on the top. You can see Chiabad, who's a former sweatshop worker, and then down below, David Reed, who was a locked out steel worker, both who were impacted by the corporate globalization policies of the World Trade Organization. And so it really helped us to build participation, explain what it was, and also to contrast our own selves against the very militarized Darth Vader cops you can see in the picture there. Next slide. And people have said this in other ways, but I love how Ricardo Levins Morales, a Puerto Rican artist from Minnesota, Twin Cities, says that you can read it, but that we're story driven, and that art is a different language, a different way of explaining things, and that it's not facts and figures, but it's how we explain the data, the information about what's happening to our communities. And next slide. So one of the places I got a lot of my education was after the WTO protest. I was invited to Florida. A group of farm workers was organizing across the state. and they saw what we had done using cardboard boxes and fabric and different kinds of things. And there's like, well, they invited me to come and help them share the techniques to make art for their first caravan across the country. And they're organizing, brilliant organizing, informed by Haitian peasant organizing, Mexican and Guatemalan organizing. And I've watched them over 20 years through brilliant organizing, but also really using art and culture at every step to tell their story. Next slide. They've been able to radically transform farm worker conditions from probably some of the worst low-wage worker conditions with frequent cases of modern-day slavery to where now they have a lot more rights than most employees in most any sector, where they've won through the Fair Food Program a whole series of rights to educate the workers and a grievance policy for anything that goes wrong. So very inspiring. Next slide. But I just think it's I learn a lot when I participate in different movements, and so I've been able to bring things between movements and also learn at each different point. So this is I've been very active for the last 15 years in the climate movement. So it's a kickoff for the People's March in New York, and all the sunflowers were created by environmental justice groups throughout greater New York City, Uprose and other groups. And they all fit together, but each one is actually different and unique and made by different community members. Next slide. This was during one of the youth-led climate strikes. We've been doing mass street murals that sometimes involve 200 or 300 people taking over and painting a street. Next slide. And so that's an example, that one designed by San Francisco muralist Mona Caron in the middle of the financial district. Next slide. And this was just last Saturday, working with an interfaith coalition and formerly ICE detained folks in the immigrant community. People did a big pilgrimage or encuentro at the different ICE detention facilities in the Bakersfield and that county. And you can see a little bit above, there's a giant puppet there. We did a giant art build before they took off and made flags. You can see a little bit in the background. We also did parasols, because when you're out in the sun for a couple hours, having your sign as a paper parasol is kind of wonderful. Next slide. And just very excited to get to work with We Can't Wait and all the educators, and some of the pieces we're planning art builds. First one in Richmond with United Teachers of Richmond, trying to provide support for folks forming art teams. We've got a bunch of amazing designs that were made by teacher artists, and we're in the process of getting professional artists in different communities to create artwork for us. We're going to mass print it as both offset, but also as poster art newspapers that will fold out. And we're going to create an art kit so that all the art and techniques will be downloadable, accessible to art teams and everybody. And really inspired by all the panelists. I'm going to check and see if there's questions or comments. And
I'll also say, if you want to raise your hand, you can come off mute and ask questions in the room too.
oh, great. Thank you, Jessica. And thank you for being our tech god. Any questions, thoughts, comments? You can just say what you liked. Do you have any raised hands?
Not seeing any raised hands, just lots of love emojis.
I'm just gonna invite the folks who we just listened to each other talk. So I'd like to ask if anyone has any quick responses to things they heard or things they wanted to say that didn't. Any of our esteemed panelists, please. Paul.
One thing that I wanted to circle back on is the the one of the powerful things about art builds is, you know, strikes are hard, actions are hard, the work is hard, and to be able to start off with something beautiful that's a win is really energizing. And when you can get your community activated, you know, within your local or broader union, or you know, with the community, with parents, with students, when people make art together, they want to show up to the actions. They want to use them. They want to see them being used. So the more you can focus on turnout, and especially turnout within the larger community that you're in, the more support you're going to have during your campaigns. And it's just, you know, it's incredible when you're throwing, you know, what's essentially an art party where people are coming, they're having a good time, they're sharing food, they're listening to music. They're a great time. You know, people like Jeanette was saying, people come for a few minutes and they stay for a couple of days because they're having such an incredible time. You're walking into your campaigns with that energy behind you already, and it's just it blows me away every time I see it, and it happens every time.
Thank you, Paul. I'm going to quickly read the comments and then I'm going to go around to the panel and ask folks to respond, which is Sean says, this has triggered my thinking on how to do this in my district. Thanks for the inspiration. Becky says, thank you for all the amazing work. Sean adds again, I can see the psychology of the image can pass the story faster to more people if the message is simple. Molly says, seeing art build was very inspiring for me. I am a new site rep for my school, and I've been trying to bring more awareness in my community to support our teachers. Thank you for the presentation. And Charlotte adds, I am ready to bring this motivation and energy back to my site. The photos are amazing. So asking folks to respond or add.
Yeah, I would say, you know, the documenting aspect is key in all of this. I mean, really organizing, what we've been doing is organizing cat teams to really develop somebody who's always, or switches it within other members, the duty of documenting, and whether it's video and photos or one or the other. It really is the way we tell stories these days online. And so it's just key to think about it, to even train yourself and speak to others, and really be able to get quality photos that are storytelling photos. And so we've been trying to do more trainings throughout our CAT teams in order to have the art that's being used at pickets and rallies and whatnot to really catch a little bit more life.
Thank you, Pablo.
I'd like to add something there. It's also a beautiful thing to be able to capture photos of members painting, because you never know when that itself is then going to be an image for the next action. It's coming back to creating that circle of what it was, and not being afraid to going to businesses. So if you have an action, go to your local businesses and say, "Hey, I have this print. Would I be able to put it in front of your store to support public education, teachers, families?" Going to the local, even taco trucks, and you can't believe how many people will actually post it. That way they're getting ready for an action that's coming up or an art build that's coming up as well.
I'm gonna just read a quick comment from Bertoni from Sacramento. True. Says, this was incredibly informative, inspiring. I can't wait to kick off our first art build. Thank you, panelists. And Sarah or Bethany?
I just want to say again how much I love seeing the photos and videos of the work that happened in Oakland, and being here with some of the people who were there for that. It was beautiful to see it again. The memories you make doing an art build are things that you don't forget.
And I'm just so grateful that we have the opportunity to be supported by artists and activists like the ones on this call, so that those of us who maybe don't consider ourselves to be artists learn that we can be a powerful part of this movement. It's a real privilege.
Thank you so much, everybody. Super inspired. What a lot of collective brilliance. Anything to add, Jessica, before we close? And I'll just say that I'm going to ask the panelists to share the resources. We'll put them at the same link where you signed up for this, which is bit.ly/art to win. And we'll also, I believe, Jessica, if we can, send it out to everyone who registered and all the panelists.
Yeah, look out for emails from us and also some ways to get involved in learning how to do art builds in your own districts. There's going to be 4 major opportunities for that this year, for you to go and learn from David and the crew how to do it yourself. So thanks everybody for coming tonight. It's really awesome to hear everybody's enthusiasm.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Take care.